Robin Spielberg is an incredible American composer and pianist. She is releasing her 24th album, By Way of the Wind, and we're excited to have this opportunity to do a Q&A with Robin.
Hi, and thank you so much for this opportunity to talk about my newest passion project, By Way of the Wind.
First of all, congratulations on your 24th album. That is truly an achievement. Can you tell us how the idea for By Way of the Wind came about and how it differs from your previous releases?
Well, thank you. It's always a great accomplishment and wonderful feeling to release new music into the world. And this one I feel is extraordinarily special and different from my other albums. Usually I release original work for solo piano, small ensemble. I've done holiday covers, Broadway, lullabies, Americana music, but it's been a very long time dream, really, of mine and goal to have my original work fully realized with full orchestra. And I just didn't have the means to be able to do that. And so when the pandemic hit and I started thinking about what ships had sailed, what is no longer possible, what is maybe possible but not probable, what are still some things I really want to accomplish. This was really at the top of the list. And so I gave a call to a colleague of mine who lives outside of Philadelphia. His name is Louis Anthony DeLeese. And we met several times working at the Recording Academy on different committees and initiatives. And we really hit it off. And he's a wonderful orchestrator. He orchestrated music for Peter Nero and Patti LaBelle. And we share a similar aesthetic. And when he heard some of my pieces, he really wanted to collaborate. So we co-arranged these pieces that all share a theme of resiliency and the beauty of the human spirit, and all evolve around this idea of how we as human beings travel and make our way through the world. And so we started with one song, one piece, and it just started to go so well that we decided to keep going.
By Way of the Wind centers on resilience, and that is so important to each musician's story. Can you share any advice on how to keep going even during the harder times?
Definitely. Resiliency is one of the most important qualities, I believe, for any musician, anyone going into the arts to have. It's not something you can actually teach. It's something that is learned through practice. I like to equate it with bravery. I wish I could teach that to everyone, but I think bravery is a muscle. It's something you exercise a little bit every day and it gets stronger, right? So having the ability to handle rejection, setbacks, to keep going, to keep pursuing what you feel is true in your heart is extremely important. And practicing that instead of putting the covers over your head, that's what creates resiliency. And I think the best advice I could give musicians is to empower themselves. So much of this industry is loaded with gatekeepers, meaning there are people out there who will say yes or no to you, to your work. It's important to say yes to yourself. Say yes to yourself. This empowers the musician. This is what I did for this project, By Way of the Wind. I said yes to myself. I stopped waiting. I stopped waiting for orchestras to say, "We love this. Let's write all the charts and let's do this work no one's ever heard of." I started getting very excited about sharing this music with listeners. And that excitement became contagious. Everyone I started talking to about it, from my husband to the arranger to producers to different orchestras, it started to create this excitement. It's first starting with me and my belief in it. So I say that surrounding yourself with people who really champion your work and believe in you is very, very important. I also advise musicians who might be feeling a little bit stuck or don't know where to start to empower themselves by simply doing one thing per day that moves the ball forward, that gets them closer to their goal. And if every musician did one thing per day, it could be sending an email, it could be doing a social media blast, it could be writing a few notes, getting a few measures done. If you do one thing per day, that's 365 things that you have done to get closer to your goal. And usually what I find is that musicians get all excited and do more than the one thing. They might do two. So really, I do believe it's a one step at a time. Looking at your career as a marathon and not as a sprint is also good, to reframe that. Things don't happen overnight. I've been working and thinking and dreaming about this particular project for several decades. I kid you not. So it really was not the right timing and not the right team just until recently.
Music can be such a positive force for good. Can you tell us a little bit about the projects you're involved with that use music for healing?
All right, well, I'm really glad you asked this one because it's my passion. It's my passion. You might know that I did a TEDx talk on the links between music and wellness. To talk about the transformative power of music, the effect that music has on our lives. During the pandemic, I started a new keynote. It's become very popular, especially on college campuses, that has to do with music and mental health. So for the past 23 years, I think, I have been an artist spokesperson for AMTA. And AMTA is the American Music Therapy Association. And I found my passion working with them through a very difficult and challenging time of my own. My daughter just turned 25, but when she was born, she was the surviving twin of a pregnancy that was way too short. She was born as a micro-preemie. She was born very prematurely, 16 weeks early. So she was born at 23 weeks, 5 days, weighed less than a pound. We discovered through happenstance, there was so many bells and whistles and noises happening in the NICU that I brought in a portable CD player. It was loaded with my music, mommy's music. And nurses are the ones who discovered that she was doing better when the music was playing, meaning they noticed actual medical results. Her oxygen saturation levels increased, her breathing stabilized, her blood pressure leveled out. It was a very interesting phenomenon. I had heard over many years that people have used my music, maybe while going through dialysis or chemotherapy, or during happy life cycle events like walking down the aisle, or during their last days in hospice. It's lovely to hear that the music that I'm creating has that kind of effect. But it wasn't until this happened with my own baby that I wanted to do a deeper dive. I wanted to know why. I wanted to know what's happening in the body, what's happening in the brain, what is happening when we listen to music and it has this very real physical result, medical result. So I started by going to musictherapy.org. There's a lot of information there and too much to go into here. But I started partnering with them and getting on a soapbox and advocating for music therapy anywhere I could. And I discovered, of course, that music therapy goes way beyond the NICU. Music therapy helps with Parkinson's disease, mental health, people with ADHD. For our daughter, not only the NICU, but she had some learning difficulties, and music helped her through that. Music helps with anxiety, depression. I mean, the list goes on and on. unbelievable, amazing amount of research done on the topic. And so I began advocating for them. I also am a founding member of a pretty new organization called the Mindful Music Association. And Mindful Music Association has a mission to go into schools and help students bring it down, using music for mindfulness as a tool. So, and of course, music has been used with Alzheimer's and dementia patients. I have seen firsthand that kind of power. When I'm on tour, I often go into a nursing home or memory care facility and play music from yesteryear. And it's wonderful to see these people just light up. They might not remember what they had for lunch, but they know the lyrics to every song. They might remember, you know, who starred in the original Broadway production of Oklahoma or Man of La Mancha, and start telling these stories. And so we have discovered that those are wonderful family days to have, because while these residents are listening to music, they are very, very present, and their memories are, they kind of wake up a bit. So it's a wonderful way for family members and friends to visit with their loved ones while having a music and memory program going on. So I'm very excited about that, how music can help us feel better. I always say that music can't cure anything. It can't cure a disease, right? But music can certainly smooth the rough edges of life. And I found that for myself. It's one of the reasons I sit at the piano so often and compose. So much in our lives are not controllable, right? So much is uncomfortable. But when I sit and I play the piano and I ruminate on happy memories, on something someone said that I thought was beautiful, or a beautiful day, there's no better way for me to cement that memory and keep that good feeling than by setting it to music.
So on this album, the New Freedom Suite in particular focuses on veterans. Can you share a little bit about what types of things musically you incorporated when composing the suite?
The New Freedom Suite is in 3 parts, and they were really, each part was came from seeds that germinated a decade apart, if that makes any sense. So, and it all culminated, now in this it's orchestral work. I never could have imagined that it would take 3 decades to put something like this together, but now it all makes sense looking back. So the first part is called Memories of Utopia. And Memories of Utopia, I had written short piece 1987 by the same name for a play. I was doing a play with the Atlantic Theater Company, of which I'm a founding member, and we were in Vermont. And this play was written by John Guare. It was called Women and Water. It took place during the Civil War. And the main character, Lighty Breeze, gives this beautiful monologue about what life can be like after the war, about creating a utopian society. It was full of hopes and dreams and absolutely beautiful ideals. And so this first part of the suite is really about what we think will happen when we enter war, when we enter conflict, and we win. The utopian society will result. So the movement builds to this very optimistic idea, full horns, full orchestra, starts with just the piano. And then the second movement is called Soldier's Journey, and ironically, that also began with a play. I was actually working on writing music for the seed changes and the underscoring of David Mamet's adaptation of Chekhov's Three Sisters. And if you know Three Sisters, at the end of the play, the soldiers are all going back to war. They're leaving this small town, the countryside. So I was asked to write a bugle call. And so I wrote a bugle call. It sounded like this. Of course, an octave lower for the horn. And that's how Soldier's Journey began, because when the play opened at the Annenberg Center in Philadelphia, opening night, the Persian Gulf War broke out. The audience didn't know, but we as cast members knew. I had a small part in the play, and I was also understudying all three sisters, of course. And I had written all the underscoring music. And I went back to my little apartment that they gave me for the month, and I finished the piece. I started thinking about all the soldiers beyond this fictional play, the ones in real life that were going to be going off to war, not knowing what was lying ahead. And so it's kind of their journey of getting ready, of getting packed up, of saying goodbye, of going. And the idea of them packing their bags, you know, it's about the innocence of those soldiers. Now I'm bringing you back to today. The third movement is called One Step Closer. The Ukrainian war began, and here I am now, older, wiser, I hope, and full well knowing that there is no winning, that the best we can hope for in these unbelievable conflicts, is that we get one step closer to where we want to be. And this goes beyond military. This is in our lives. We might have inner war and conflict, or conflict in our families, or conflict in our friendships, or in the workplace. And all we can do, we might not be able to resolve them like this, but we can certainly put one foot in front of the other, no matter how difficult the conflict is. One foot in front of the other, and make ourselves one step closer to the people we want to be, to the world we want to live in. And so that's how I express myself musically here. It starts with a very steady snare, very military kind of beat with piano, and it builds and builds and builds, and it feels triumphant. It feels that we're getting somewhere by the time this piece ends. It's my way of expressing my wish that for everyone to be one step closer to the world they want to live in and to their own dreams. And I decided to call the entire thing New Freedom Suite for a number of reasons. One, I live in a little tiny town called New Freedom, which has roots and connections to the Underground Railroad. So there's that. And also, my husband and I moved here when our daughter was quite young, because we needed to be near the medical care that she needed at Johns Hopkins. And so we found New Freedom out of moving out of the city and coming to a quieter, more rural environment. It gave us, our family, a whole new freedom to the health care and the schooling that she needed. And so the whole suite is really a reminder of how one step at a time, you know, we've come closer to freeing ourselves from a lot of the burdens that we were carrying. I want to show you this, if I may. This is the package for By Way of the Wind that we just received. It's pretty special. And it opens like this, and inside there is this really nice enamel pin, which is an angel bird. And the CD itself, and here is a booklet that has all kinds of poems and stories and insights to the music, and really nice line drawings. Very proud of it. It's even hand sewn in the same color. Isn't that cool? And there are postcards inside that relate to some of the pieces. For example, Wherever You Go has the Desiderata, my favorite poem, written on the back. And New Freedom Suite has a card as well. So these are nice gift cards. And it's a beautiful package. They'll be signed and numbered.
You wrote a book entitled Naked on the Bench, My Adventures in Pianoland, and it's about the life of a touring artist. You yourself are planning to get back to touring in 2024 for this album. What are some of the things you look forward to, or perhaps what are some of the challenges you'll be preparing for?
Great question. Okay, so this album, By Way of the Wind, releases October 20th on all platforms, DSPs, digital service providers, right? Spotify, Apple, all those things. I think there's 160 of them now. And then in the CD form, it's a special deluxe box, and you can get it at robinspielberg.com. So the orchestral piece, the whole album, all 60 minutes with stories and concert films, it's 11 pieces altogether. This was recorded with the Budapest Scoring Orchestra in Hungary, but it's going to have its live world premiere in Texas, outside Houston, in Lake Jackson, Texas, on November 12th. And so that's going to be performed with me as the soloist at the piano with the Brazos Sport Symphony Orchestra, November 12th. Very excited. I have been rehearsing here in my piano room with the headphones on, listening to the recording without the piano, so I'm playing with the orchestra. And of course, there's going to be challenges. Here I am in the 4th decade of my career, and this is the first time that I am playing with a symphony orchestra. Yeah. Most people my age would not say that they're doing this for the first time. But this is what happens when you have practice resiliency and patience and persistence, and you pursue your dreams. So I'm very, very excited, and I'm proud of myself. So I will be having that premiere in November, and of course we are now pursuing, when I say we, my husband is my producer, and also we run together a small boutique talent agency called Cousin Talent. So he's been reaching out to orchestras, letting them know about the project and what we'd like to accomplish. And it is a beautiful piece because it has a thematic, it's not only brand new, but there's that beautiful theme that runs all through the evening or afternoon, that has to do with resiliency and beauty of the human spirit. And we have some concert films that we will show. Challenges I see, well, learning the styles of different conductors and playing this music live will be a definite difference for me. Sometimes you will have to change the configuration. This was recorded with 62-piece orchestra, so I know I need to be flexible. There might be some smaller orchestras, and we'll have to go back and rewrite some parts and do some reductions. So that's going to happen. I still am touring as a solo artist. I have a number of shows coming up now and into 2024 that are, Robin Spielberg's Piano Stories, where I tell stories of what inspired the music and play for audiences. So I'm still doing that. But I love a good challenge. And so I'm really looking forward to meeting those challenges as they come up. I'm so appreciative of you asking about the recording and the project and sharing the information with your readers and viewers. So thank you so much for that. And more information, of course, is on my website. I'm very active on socials. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram, all those things. And thanks again. Bye for now.